I got off the bus a few stops early just so I could be sure to end up where I wanted to be, since all I got to do is stay tight to the southern perimeter of the park we were in today. And then I saw this interesting water wheel. Hopefully it's a reproduction of an ancient Chinese one. So if you look closely, the way this one works is it has those long rectangular boxes, and they're set at an angle so that they enter the water, and then as the wheel comes up on the other side, they've got water inside them, which they in turn dump when they get up to the top. Looking at the other side, you can see how it's set at such an angle that it holds the water, at least until it gets to the top. And then the long trough's designed, I'm sure, to catch it from the very beginning that it starts to dump until it's over. I don't think the water goes anywhere, but probably tumbles back into the long distance ride from Chengde to Shanhaiguan, which is where I get another bus to go to Shanhaiguan. My biggest problem today may be finding a place to stay for the next 2 or 3 nights. Okay, I'm now in Shanhaiguan at the Kuhan Biguan Hotel, for lack of a better term. It is probably the most threadbare, worn out, old hotel I have been in since I was about 24 and was selling Alberto Culver, and stayed in the hotel in Tillamook, Oregon, where the lights were hanging from the ceiling on a bare bulb, or with a bare bulb. Here it looks like the last thing to hang there were lanterns. I'll just give you a little view of it. Now, to show you how threadbare it is, there's the bottom sheet. Recently painted approximately 1,000 years ago, I think. This is the toilet. I'll look inside, make sure nothing was screaming out at me, you know? And presumably some things work, not the shower. So I've got a feeling this is going to be one of those do-it-yourself towel showers. I think this is that one right here. Nope, it's not. But this one is closed. Another one that Ming at the last place I stayed in Chengde found was not closed, but it wasn't taking any guests during the wintertime. It was renting itself totally out to students. So the only thing is this one here, the Zhongshan Bingguan, for 180 versus 60 here. So my Google map shows a guest house on the opposite end of the railroad. Here's the railroad over here, and so I think I'll walk down there just as part of checking out town and see what its situation is. Even the little cups are threadbare. However, now, just to give you an idea of how bad it could have been, apparently it used to be down there somewhere between here and that large building, and it was raised, and this is what he got as a substitute for it. So who knows what condition that was in. Wherever I got the information from, and I think it was probably Travel Advisor, because Lonely Planet doesn't even have any places, I don't believe. I tried to negotiate down to 50 and he wouldn't, so I said, well, I'll stay just one night instead of 3. He still didn't budge, so we'll see what happens. Maybe he's got the cards. Well, the fan works, and there actually is some mosquito netting, so there's electricity, and I can charge my camera, and that's the only thing I really care about in that guy. I got a feeling that he is just here on a short term until they tear this part down. Spending a few nights in a place like this renews a humility that we Americans, me in particular, have long ago lost. And that is, it's not necessary, and in some places not even possible, for the majority of average people to live the life that we live, even at our average, most average level. But here's some more insights. It appears that probably when this place was abandoned, before this man got it, however he got it, there used to be showers in here. Although can't quite tell how it would have occurred. That might have been where the water heater was, actually, right there. There was a bath. Don't see any shower capability, although that triangular device might have held one of those showers on a hose. But imagine this place when the tile was fresh and new. And so was that grimy fan which doesn't work, and that light which had a fitting that doesn't work. Excuse me, the fan does work. And when this toilet, and this perhaps was either considered a really high quality element, or before it was necessarily replacing a top that was broken. Here, one of what we would call the tackiest things, but I understand the issue. In an attempt to refurbish this sink sometime in its past, they painted it. It's the first time I've ever seen that effort. Although I've seen people attempt to paint over crack or breaks and patches in a enamel tub, so that it wouldn't look quite so. This is a pretty little streamlet that runs apparently out of the Great Wall city that was here. This is First Pass Under Heaven, which is named as the first pass starting from the ocean going from the east to the west on the Great Wall. All of this was either restored and or originated in about 1980, I think, because the original had all collapsed and degenerated over time. This is out front of the First Pass Under Heaven, and a pretty little place for folks to sit if they wish. Across the street, a lovely little park that I'll explore later, maybe on the way back. This ironically may be a statue of one of the Manchu who conquered Beijing through this pass, not by breaking through it, but by bribing one of the dignitaries here for the dynasty in return for safeguarding the life of his concubine. This is a very old tree, probably unique because of its 3 trunks. I'm not exactly sure how far in I can go before I have to have a ticket, but I'll probe it a bit right now. I'm not sure if there were originally 4 gates, but this is somewhat atypical to have 4 number 1, an even number, and number 2 to have 2 large ones in the center instead of just the one. Looks like you can walk this entire street. Interesting. Here, a dramatic old building, unrestored. I'll walk along this garden pathway that parallels reasonably closely to the wall itself, just for the ambience. The rest looks a tad bleak and touristy. Of course I'll go around front and video this, but how many tourists take this picture? This is a little bit of phony patriotic histrionics, because this wall was never breached. It didn't have to be. It was allowed, Manchus were allowed to come straight through unencumbered en route to Beijing to take it, as they did. Although the wall has been breached twice, and I'm sure more than once there were battles. But overall it was ineffective. But a hell of a monument. What's also funny is that a man has a spear, actually more like and a spear for thrusting. You don't throw things like that very often. You run out of stuff fast. But what would you do with a spear up on top there if you're going to have anything of benefit? There's some of the boys meeting for the card games or mahjong that takes place everywhere, apparently, so far that I've seen in Beijing and the rest of China. Mahjong in particular. Oftentimes the board is simply a piece of material that's unfolded and played on. And here's another tower. My guess is you have to pay to get up on top of the wall, which is fine. Probably government-built buildings for the purpose of providing a tourist trade, perhaps some administrative offices.